Small business owners complain about hiring all the time. And in my experience, I've come to learn it's because it's something that they assign, or it's secondary, or it's something they do when they don't have the time to do it. Today on this episode, we have a fellow recruiter on board, and we're going to talk about how to make recruiting a core competency and not just something you assign off so you can engage with better people, better people in your business, and get to scale and get to making some money.
Welcome to the KeyHire Small Business Podcast, hosted by Harlock, creator of KeyHire Solutions, where small business owners learn how to build stronger teams, simplify growth, and scale confidently. Got feedback or topic ideas? Send us a text. If you're listening on a handheld device, tap the link in the show notes to message the show. Subscribe or follow on your favorite platform, and follow KeyHire Solutions on social media for more insights and updates between episodes. To learn more about how KeyHire can help scale your business, visit keyhire.solutions. Connect with Corey on LinkedIn through the link in the show notes. Mention you're a listener, and he'll accept your request. And now, on with the show. Here's your host, Corey Harlock.
Before we get into the show, I always like to shout out some people that made some comments. Marshall A. Commented on Shannon Minifee from the Box of Crayons and of our roundtable, but she did an episode on the Advice Monster back on February 9th. And Marshall said, the discipline of asking what else often uncovers the real constraint, because first answers are usually surface level and shaped by habit. Leaders who stay curious just a moment longer tend to access clarity that changes decisions rather than just confirming assumptions. Marshall, awesome comment. Thank you so much. You hit the nail on the head. If you want to learn about communication or how to be better at communicating, I definitely recommend you go back and listen to Shannon's episode from February 9th. But we also had an episode at the end of March, our roundtable, where we had 4 expert communicators and leadership consultants talking about how to be a better and more effective communicator. So you might want to check that episode out as well. All right, let's get into the show. Today we have Ryan Hogan. He's the co-founder and CEO of Talent Harbor, helping growth stage businesses fix broken hiring systems. He's a Navy reservist, a serial entrepreneur, and he previously helped scale Hunt a Killer into a $50 million business. And now he helps founders build strong teams. Matt, let's bring on Ryan. Ryan, how you doing?
Good. Excited to be here. Thanks, Corey. Appreciate it.
First questions, because people are now wondering, what the hell is Hunt a Killer?
Yeah.
That's all they remembered from all that is Hunt a Killer. What's that?
The first company that actually scaled and took off was called Run for Your Lives. And so I've had this like weird track of just ominous company names. But yeah, so Hunt a Killer is an immersive murder mystery. We started back in 2016 as a live event. So we transformed this 200-acre campground into a living experience, or to a living crime scene. And then we eventually pivoted in subscription box. It was like 2017. But basically, it makes people detectives. And so we would send clues, items, correspondence, police reports, case files. I don't own it anymore. I sold it a couple of years ago, but it's still on Target shelf. So if murder mysteries are your thing, it's the best one out there.
Very cool. So you got to the point where you're sending, like, every quarter you get a new mystery to solve and you have a dinner party and away you go kind of thing?
It was every month. So it was an episodic delivery subscription box, and it was 1 episode a month, 6 episodes in a season. And we were shipping, at our peak during COVID, we were shipping 160,000 boxes a month.
Wow, that's very cool.
It was wild. A wild experience for sure.
That's cool. Well, I always kind of hesitate to have other recruiters on this podcast because we do things so differently, and I can get on my soapbox and rail against the traditional type recruiters and the way they do things. There's a place for it. I don't believe it's with small businesses or small scaling businesses. I just don't see the connection myself. And I did it. I owned an agency, and I always was kind of like, I don't know, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Yeah.
And then when you and I got talking, it was like we shared a brain when we first met. So hopefully we still do, but it's always good to have a differences of opinions. But we're talking about recruiting as core competency, and we always like to start off the show with definitions.
Yeah.
So when you say recruiting as a core competency, help people understand what you mean by that.
Yeah, like to me, recruiting is a true expertise. Like it is a career field, and what I see is that when most smaller organizations are going out and hiring, what they do is they tap whoever the leader is of that department, whoever the leader is, or the manager of that team, and they say, "Hey, go hire somebody."
Yeah, you need to hire some bodies.
Yeah,
go get them.
And so, number one, that never happens when they're at like 80% capacity. They're already at 120% and cranking, which is why they need someone else. And then you're like, oh, and yeah, just go find some more people. And the problem is that human has spent their entire career, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, mastering their craft. And that craft is whatever it is they do on a daily basis. So
operations, sales, admin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're like, hey, go become an expert recruiter overnight just because the company necessitates or needs a new person. And I think that's pretty unfair. And the thing is like, I'm not really just talking about other businesses. Like this was me at my last company. Like when we needed somebody, I'd be like, hey, head of marketing, go find us a social media manager. Hey, this, go. Right. And it wasn't until that we were able to tap into expert recruiting where I was like, oh, like this is a thing. And it's everything from the vetting process. Like, and you, I'm not an expert recruiter, so I'll put that out there. I just happen to lead a recruiting company. And you know this better than anybody, is like it's a people skill, it's a reading skill, it's an intuition, and it's something that's developed over a long period of time of being able to vet and analyze and assess talent as they're coming through the door. And that's just one component. Like, let's get into the sourcing, which sourcing in and of itself is a sales process. Yeah,
it's a skill, right? Big companies have their sourcing department, they have the recruit, like they have it broken down just like accounts receivable.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it's crazy. The big shop.
And you wouldn't necessarily take the accounts receivable and make them the operations manager. Like, and that's or what I see.
Tell them to do accounts payable.
that's it. And that's the need that I saw. And for us, like the problem that Hunt a Killer had is we were probably $10 to $15 million company before we ever said, hey, we'll cut a check for 40 to 60,000 to go find us talent. But the eye opener was when we did that, it was night and day on the talent. So like, we were doing the ZipRecruiters, the Indeeds, the LinkedIns. Mm-hmm. And then when we could tap into a recruiter, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like world-class talent. How do you do it? And there's a process to do it, which generally isn't just posting on job boards. So that's long-winded, but for me, it's an expertise.
The best people on the market aren't sitting, refreshing their Indeed homepage, waiting for you to post the job.
You're going to get us canceled here, Corey. We're not even 5 minutes into the show and we're already going to be hated, but it's true. It's true.
Yeah. Our core value, one of our core values is we do not post jobs ever, because that's exactly it. Right. It's, and I appreciate it. It is a skill, and it's funny. You took a different angle, but I think we get to the same destination. I always say business owners didn't start their business because they love recruiting. They started it because they had a passion. And I have a million sayings around this. I've hit 10,000 golf balls. Doesn't mean I'm ready to be a golf pro. It means I've hit 10,000 golf balls. I've probably hit 10 of them well.
Yep.
Right? I've got lucky 10 times. So in the recruiting space, we have people out there, or in the hiring, when owners and businesses are hiring, just because they interview and hire often doesn't mean they are good at it. They have a lot of reps, but they're doing a lot of things incorrectly. And yeah, they get it right once in a while. And the statistics out there are 33%, 1 in 3. you have to hire 3 people to get that one position right.
Yeah.
And that's a horrible batting. I mean, it's a great batting average. It's a horrible hiring average. I would rather invert that and say, okay, let's get it right 2 out of 3 times. And every now and again, we're going to make a mistake. And you have to have a process in place to make that happen.
Yep. And you know what's interesting about so Jack Welch in his book Winning, he talks about, he says, at the pinnacle of my career. So think about this, like Jack Welch turning around General Electric, all these other, he's like, at the pinnacle of my career, I got hiring right 50% of the time. That's when we think about some of the best and the titans in the industry admitting that they only got hiring right 50% of the time, like that tells me that maybe they weren't the right person to recruit.
Sure.
And maybe there was a broken process. And that's the thing that most business owners and that I got wrong is the actual cost of a bad hire. Because what I would do is I would just calculate, I'd say, okay, well, this amount of money came out of the company bank account into their salary. Therefore, that was the cost. That's not the cost. That might be an eighth, a quarter of the cost. The real cost is degradation to culture. The real cost is the opportunity loss. The real cost is all the poor decisions that they made. The real cost is, what kind of like bad juju, bad vibes that they put throughout the organization. Oh, and then what do you have to reinvest to rerun that entire process back? So, all too often it's like, oh, well, that was a bad hire. It cost me 25,000. Like, no, it probably cost you $1 million. And like, let's walk through those numbers.
Correct. And the problem is if they get it wrong one time, then that cost starts to double and triple because it takes you hire the wrong person and you do the wait and see, and say you have them in seat for 6, 9, 12 months. Now you have all of that time of opportunity costs that you're missing as well. Not just the time the position was open. So then you terminate that person, start it all over again. And now the clock doesn't start ticking again. It continues to tick in terms of those opportunities. Like, let's say it was a sales manager. And after 9 months, you say to yourself, they haven't brought in one deal. Well, if you didn't have that sales manager, you still wouldn't be bringing in any deals. And had you done the process right, and that role sat open for maybe 4 extra weeks, but you got a rock star, that would be condensed and it would be substantially less in terms of those missed opportunity costs.
Yeah, I love it. Like, and I think what you're kind of getting at, like, you've changed the entire trajectory of the company. Like where you could have been, like you'll never actually achieve that because you'll always be behind it now.
Yeah, because you just kind of go here. And that's Ryan, that's such a great point because that's even true of people who take a pay cut to take a new job. If they fall into that, they get sweet talked and like, look, I can't pay you, but don't worry, I'll take care of you on the back end. So they take a hit in their base. Yep. They will never recapture that money. They will always be behind the trajectory they had before they took it. And that's a great point. You're right. You stall out where you could have been gaining that momentum, and it's pretty hard to hockey stick up and catch up to where you could have been. That's a great point. Do you have any more information around that? Because I think that's really valuable.
Yeah. I mean, how I think about it is more on the sales side. So, and even though we both kind of play and swim in the same space, like we really focus and hyper focus on sales roles. We don't go outside of that swim lane too often. And this is really what we see is like, there's so much uncaptured revenue. So let's say there's an insurance company out there. They're looking for an incredible salesperson, and insurance is a very tough business. It's a very long
personal wealth management, insurance, like woo, it's a grind to get established.
Yeah. And that's like the other thing that we recommend here, and this is kind of deviating just a hair.
Deviate away, man. Deviate away.
The issue is also like looking at early indicators because people hang on to talent too long. So let's say you've changed the entire trajectory of where you could have been. So you hired the wrong salesperson, and now like you could have captured, let's say, a quarter million of revenue over the first 6 months. It was the wrong salesperson. You let it go on for 6 months. Now you terminate them. You run another process. It takes 3 months. Now you got to ramp them up. So like you've literally lost a year off of that one bad hire. And the other thing that we look at is companies invest so much dang time and money into finding the right person, and they don't invest that same amount of time, energy, and resources into onboarding. And so when we think about things like salespeople, let's say it's insurance and it takes 6 months, maybe even 9 months to ramp up based upon the sales cycle. If you're waiting 6 to 9 months to understand if this person's going to be successful or not, you are way behind the game. And so one of the things that we do with clients is we say, okay, these are your like lagging indicators. This is what's going to tell us a year from now if they're successful. But what are those leading indicators that within the first 30 days, maybe they haven't closed any business, but we have the leading indicators that say this person is going to be successful or they're not. And what we're trying to do is help our clients get to quicker decisions so they're not
Right.
on that different trajectory point.
And those leading indicators, are they kind of like activity? Are they at least putting the activities in? Are they making their calls? Are they having their lunches? Are they having their meetings? Things like that.
That's exactly right. So and like maybe it's not closed business. So it's the activities would be, how many calls are you doing? And you can review the calls and see like how they're positioning, how they're conveying the value proposition, things like that. But it's also like the self-booking of calls. So are they actually sourcing the calls? So not just the calls that they're having, but are they the calls with the right people? And all of these things are going to tell you pretty quickly, if someone does 100 cold calls, but nobody picks up, like then they're doing the things, but there's no positive outcome of those things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There needs to be you got to reverse engineer the numbers and say, look, if you make 100 cold calls, you should get 20 people pick up. You should be able to book 5 meetings, whatever it is, and reverse engineer that number.
Yeah. And like what we look for specifically is like problem solvers. Because if someone has 100 calls, let's say you've got your funnel and it's like 100 calls turns into 20 conversations, which turns into 5 somethings, which turns into 1 closed client. And that takes 6 months. But let's say you're still top of funnel because you're in the first 6 months. So you're doing the 100 calls a week, but you're only getting 5 people on the line. Like we're looking for people that are solving that problem, that are already asking those questions before we come in. So like, hey, what's going on?
Right.
Oh, well, I did research. It's from this list. And, I'm thinking that our target needs to change a bit. These are all indicators that you've got the right person versus like, I make calls, nobody's picking up. Tell me what to do next.
Yeah. And further to that, what we really focus on is understanding the business, so 3 things we really want to understand is culture, the experience, and the capacity this person needs, but also providing everyone involved the good, the bad, and the ugly. Mm-hmm. Because the more information we can put on the table, honest information, and I'll give you an example of what that is, both sides can make a more informed decision. Mm-hmm. And that's what we find is our gunpowder. Like that's what makes our process work. And it's nuances. So people will tell you, and stop me if you've heard this, a business owner may tell a candidate because they're excited about that candidate, we have a great culture here, you're going to love it. Mm-hmm. Person starts day 1, someone pulls them aside at the water cooler and says, oh, watch out for so-and-so and watch out. And they're like, well, these people don't like it. Like they said it was a great culture. I feel a little misled. Yeah. What the business owner should have said or wanted to say was, we want to build a great culture. And we see you as being a building block to do that because we're not there yet. And we know we have some problems. That is a very different statement than we have a great culture. And what that does for the candidate is it opens up their eyes. And they either say, I'm not here to fix your culture. I just want to go knock on doors and dial numbers or run my machine or run my department. Or they might say, yeah, that sounds like something I would love to help you with. I understand culture is important. I come from a great culture. I think I can help you.
Yep.
So that's a hell yeah or a hell no, instead of I think that could be right. And we're really big on phrasing things. My goal is I want a hell yeah or a hell no. I don't want a tire kicker. I want someone who's like, nope, not for me. Great. Hey, let's keep in touch. It was great talking to you. It's okay. Every job's perfect for someone, but this one's not perfect for you. And I've talked people out of.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, well, I think that could be fun. And I'll say, no, it's not the job for you. I don't want you to, it's too risky for you to leave a job that you're doing pretty well at to join a company where there's going to be a lot of demand, a lot of expectation, and it's too much risk for you and it's too much risk for us.
Yep.
And I don't think it's fair to either of us to drop you in there and say, go be successful.
Yeah.
And that's just honest. But I think that's where we miss, because sometimes when department heads or owners are doing their own hiring, they get excited about someone and their viewpoint shifts because they go into sales mode, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And like what I used to lose sight of quite a bit on this kind of same thread is like, it's a two-way street. Meaning in my last company, I was, maybe it was the company before that, but it was one of these things where it's like, you have a company and you're like, well, I'm paying people to come and work and we're changing the world or we're doing this. Like people should feel honored to come in. And that's not like what I've lost sight of in the past is like the candidate, the teammate, the whoever's coming through the door, like they have half the say in this equation. And if we're not transparent throughout that process, that can create a very big problem the minute they step through the door, because they're like, this was not my expectation at all.
They feel deceived. The worst thing is they feel deceived, and then that breaks trust.
Yes.
Now trust is waning, and that's, once you lose trust, you've the relationship's on pretty shaky ground.
Yep. And your point with culture, like spot on. I like to talk about, I think when people think about recruiting, they're like, yeah, I look at some resumes, I look at their background, I ask a few questions, and like they either got it or they don't. And like, that's not recruiting. And this whole idea of like, can you read a resume? If that were recruiting, then everybody would be recruiters. Like, yeah, I read a resume. They've got the background, the experience, they have everything that I need. Over half the battle is this thing that you brought up called culture. And like, is this person a fit for the organization? And so when I've gotten hiring wrong in the past, it's not because I can't read a resume and figure out like, oh, do they have the prerequisite experience to be successful here? No, it's, does this person fit into the culture that we've created? And that's where you start getting into these nuances of like, how do you properly assess talent before they get through the door to figure out if they're going to be an additive to the culture or if they're not a fit? And because when they're not a fit, like we like to talk about it, it's like a foreign body. Like if you think about it in like medical practice, anytime you bring in somebody new, it's bringing a foreign body, a foreign thing into the organization. And there's going to be a shift. There's going to be a change. Even if it's near perfect, it's never 100% alignment. And
right.
What you want is that shift to be in a positive way, not necessarily a negative
right.
way.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be a shift, and being able to like suss that stuff out and vet it out before they get through is incredibly important.
You raise such a good point. I love the foreign body analogy, especially if you bring in a bad foreign body, right? Your body goes into full evacuation mode.
Yes.
But unfortunately, sometimes in a business, the people that evacuate are your good employees when you bring in the wrong person, which is the ultimate debit. And I've had conversation with business owners around this. When you have a bad employee, wait and see equals watch your good people walk out the door, because people that thrive on accountability, and there's someone in the team who's not being held accountable because they've been around a long time. They know where the bodies are buried. Maybe they're in a position that people think we can't, we won't survive if they leave.
Yeah.
Well, all your good people will leave because they're like, why am I working so hard when this person's over here doing, is bad for culture and making my life difficult? I can just go somewhere else. And then the vicious cycle of that is that cancerous, toxic person, you rely on them even more. They get even more important. And so the more you rely on them, the harder it is to get good people to stick around. And I used to run restaurants back in the day, and yeah, I got the DTs, they're just thinking about it. But trying to get through Christmas one time, we were short staffed and I worked all my people to the bone. And after Christmas, I went on this hiring blitz, and I sat like one of my key people down to tell them, hey, here's what I'm going to do. And as I sat them down, they handed me the resignation. I was like, crap. So now all the people I wanted to replace just got more valuable, and I can't because I got to hire people and train them and bring them in. So it's getting it right is scary. And I'll give you another insight. I don't use resumes.
Interesting.
Because we outbound check everyone out before we reach out to them.
Yep.
So I know what skills they're bringing to the table. With AI now, resumes they're a commodity. You can just ask an AI to, here's the job, here's my resume, tailor it.
Yep.
And so it doesn't mean anything. In fact, I'm so comfortable with not using resumes. I had a client who called me and said, we made a hire, and they were very excited about it. And he called me after we signed the deal, and she was getting ready to start. And he's like, Corey, I don't have a resume for this person. And I'm like, oh, don't you? Oh. And I will ask for it eventually. And I always say, don't spend any time on it. It's just paper. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
But he was very uncomfortable with the fact that he had just hired someone and hadn't even actually really seen the resume.
I love that.
And she's there doing it, they are blown away with her. She is a great fit. But because we do everything outbound, no one's applying to me. It doesn't matter. I know who you are before I talk to you because I've researched you and sent you a message.
Yep. To your point with AI, it's so interesting because we keep hearing about this AI and things are getting easier and we can better evaluate talent and bring them through the door. And what's been interesting, the people that are on job, it's actually made it harder to recruit because the people that are posting to job boards now, you've got AI software for candidates and it's going around, like you just said, it's modifying and custom tailoring their resumes, applying to 1,000 jobs each week.
And so it'll get through the CRM screening. The keywords it's loaded with the right keywords. So it gets through.
Yep. And then you've got a stack of 1,000 applicants that are sitting in, and how can you go? So then you plug in, not you as in you, but companies, recruiting or hiring managers plug in their own AI. So now you got AI talking to AI, trying to make hiring decisions. And I would, I'm biased here, but I wouldn't have gotten into this industry if I thought AI was going to take over. To your point, it can help streamline things. It can help improve the process. It can help us make them more effective in our decisions, but it's not replacing the human component of the sales process and of the vetting and assessing of talent that's coming through the door.
You talked earlier about, the culture fit is the big one. And that is the old expression is hire for attitude, train for skills. And that is essentially hire people that fit your culture. And when you do all the 9 boxes and all the fancy tools you do, they all still say hire someone who's lower skill, higher culture fit than someone who's high skill, low culture fit. Yep. As Simon Sinek calls them, the high performing assholes. What tips or tools or techniques do you use to kind of help identify for culture? Because it's the hardest thing to do. You can vet out experience pretty quick.
Yep. And I think that this is where kind of that intuition and expertise comes into play. So the first thing that we do, and I know you're on board with this same sort of like methodology and process. Like most of the clients we work with operate on some sort of business operating system. The elephant in the room is the entrepreneurial operating system. And as a part of that, you've got your core values. And the first thing that we do is we assess what those core values are, and we dig in deep. So it's not just like, hey, give us your core values. Like we ask questions on those core values because we want to get an understanding into like, what are the actions? What are the vignettes? What are the things that you've seen that demonstrate these? And then once we can clearly articulate what those core values are, we bring them into the interview process.
Yeah.
And so we have an actual analysis, and we send this over when we send over a fully vetted candidate. We've got a star rating for every single core value. So it's a rating from 1 to 5. And we put in some notes based upon, obviously we're not sending over ones, but if it's a 4,
Right.
we're letting them know how we came to the conclusion that it was a 4 out of 5 instead of a 5 out of 5. And the big thing is being able to ask questions related to that. So what we try and do is extract actual examples from their professional background that exhibits those core behaviors. And the trick is without giving them those core behaviors. So like one of ours is go givers. And it's near and dear to us. Yes, there's a book. It's literally the book. It's a part of our onboarding when we hire at Talent Harbor. We give the book Go Givers. And what we're trying to do is figure out the mentality of the candidate. Like, does this candidate think about their team? Do they think about creating value in this world without any expectation of reciprocation? And that's what we're trying to get to in our questions to better understand, like, is this person going to be a great fit for Talent Harbor? So that's one example, but like, it's really about asking great questions and then like watching for those things that, is their face lighting up? Are they giving like all the details of that example or of that story? And these are the things that recruiters spend decades mastering. Yep. Where when you stick in your sales manager and like, go hire someone, they're going to be like, well, he did great at the last company. I'm sure he'll do great here. And it's like, ooh, uh-oh.
Well, so. But that is a factor to consider, especially when it comes to sales, is like past performance. But
yes,
yeah, you're right, because some cultures are, we rank everyone and post it on the wall every week. And if you're in the bottom spot, you got to get everyone coffee and you're going to get made fun of until you get out of that bottom spot. Yep. And that might not be your culture. You might not have that competitive culture. Yep. And as I've said 1,000 times, every culture is perfect for someone.
Yep. That's exactly right.
It's your job to get to language it and be honest about it like you are, to make sure it's a hell yeah or a hell no. You don't want to leave it vague enough that people can squeeze in and fit. Like you talked about the detail, and you don't want the tire kicker. You don't want the person who's fudging their way in because you made it so vague and they slip one by you, right? Yep. Like it's funny when you said we give this people the book. I think the first red flag would be they don't read the book, right?
Yeah,
like that would be a problem.
What
was your favorite part of the book? I actually didn't read it. Well, it's been nice talking to you, right?
Yep. Yeah. Oh gosh, I might actually put that in our process now, because that would be a really early indicator to make a quick decision.
First question you should be asking is, what was your favorite? Yeah, I don't know. I've not read the book, but I'm sure it has some points. Like, what was your favorite step?
Yep.
And then, because they could AI it, but then tell me why. And as we say, it's 3 layers deep. 3, as you know, you always got to go 3 layers deep. And most of my business owners are great at the first layer.
Mm-hmm.
And then they move on to the next question. You're like, what's up? Let's get a little deeper over here. I didn't enjoy the answer. One of my clients, they had a candidate that was referred to them and they wanted me to screen him. So I said, great. So I screened the individual and I got back to the COO and said, I don't like him. And she said, why? And I said, everything he said, I feel like he's lying by omission, or he's embellishing everything he's done.
Mhm.
At the last, it was a professional services company. At the last firm, he was there a year, but he was telling me he did things, and I know what he was doing takes 2 or 3 years, but he was taking credit for all the wins, only having been there as a fairly junior person, and that's always a concern. And when I was asking him details about what he did, it was very vague.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, well, what? She asked something about why is that bad, and I said, okay, let me take you through an exercise. I said, I want you to think of a time right now where you were like super proud of an accomplishment you had. She goes, okay. I go, do you have it? Yep. I go, where are you? She goes, I'm in my high school gym. I go, what are you doing? I think she was like playing basketball, and I sunk the game winner. And I'm like, okay, what uniform were you wearing? What color was it? It was white. Okay, what did you do after the game? Well, I went out, walked out to my car. Was it daytime or nighttime? It was nighttime. What time was it? It was about 8 o'clock. What kind of car did you have? It was a Datsun. What color was it? Green. When you're telling me about a lived experience, and that was 30 years ago, when you tell me about something you've accomplished and done, you can get so granular in the detail. And when people get really high level, and I think we're moving into tips right now, which is probably a good segue, but when you're interviewing someone and they refuse to give you granular detail, what time was it? And I even asked her, what time of year was it? She goes, I remember it was fall because I was wearing this jacket. I'm like, exactly. What color was the jacket? It was white. Like, you remember.
Yeah.
And so if you get someone who just refuses to give you that level of detail, they're probably making it up.
100%. It's so interesting. Like, as you were asking, I was like answering the questions in my head as you're going through, and even I could come up with it. I was like, oh, I was driving this, I was wearing this, I was doing that. I was like, that's brilliant. Yeah.
That's how you know when someone's telling the truth, when they can get granular in the detail. If they're lying, they don't have the detail, right? Yep. And then the other trick for us is I never talk about the role or the company.
Yep.
And we have a script. I have a script that we go off and we say, hey, here's how we're going to spend this next however long we're together. I have a bunch of questions for you. Once I'm done with my questions, I'll tell you more about the role in the company, answer any of your questions, and then we can talk. And so they don't have anything to do but tell me the truth, because they don't even know the company. They don't know much about the role. They have no requirements. And they'll say, well, it's kind of a hard question to answer because I really don't know about the role. And I'll say, you should be able to answer like that. That's an indicator to me, because they're looking for me to say, well, here's what we have this role and we're looking for someone. So tell me about yourself. Well, I have this. Oh, you're perfect. Perfect fit, right? So that's one of our tools we use in the interview, is especially in the initial interview. For sure, when we do the pre-screen, we never disclose anything about the role, because I just want to get an honest, I want to have an honest conversation and get an honest idea of this person's skills and abilities, so I can see if they're a fit. And if they're not, that's okay. They could have amazing experience. Just your experience is great. It's just not great for this particular weird niche role I have that we're trying to fill for our client,
Yeah. It's so interesting when you talk, because you brought this up too about culture, and I agree. Like, there's not bad, there's not good. There's just something for everybody. And what you just said right there of like, this person's successful. It's just they're not going to be successful in this based upon the nuances of the role. I don't know why I live in the analogies world, but it reminds me of growing up, and there was like the preps and the goths and the jocks and the and like, of course, everybody thought that they were better than whatever the other thing was, but nobody really was better in it. It was just different. And like, you just kind of naturally gravitated. And a great example that you brought up.
Each group had their own culture.
Yes. That, and not one
they
was
had a
better.
uniform. They had their own culture. They had the way you looked, the way you acted, the way you assimilated and fit in.
That's it.
And you had to find your people.
That's exactly it. And I agree. Like when I talk about go-giver, like that's not like, the whole like hire 10 salespeople and cut the bottom 3 each quarter.
No, you can't do that. Yeah, it's old school.
Yeah. And like, but there's the scoreboard people of like, who's at the top of the list, blah, blah, blah. And like, it's all competition. And like, that's not even our culture is go-givers. Like, just continue adding value in the universe. And then just, we believe that relationships and business will naturally, will be a natural outcome of that. But like you said, like, different cultures and it works for different people and it works for different organizations.
It's so important, that culture piece. I mean, we're getting down to it, but it's funny. We spent most of our time talking about how to be a good recruiter, talking about culture,
Yeah,
and but that's it.
it is
I,
it.
I think that's a true. You can't. It can't be an afterthought. It has to be the price of admission. You have to. That's what gets you in the door. Is now your experience, I guess, gets you in the door, but um, if I had to offer some advice on this, what I would say is you have to have multiple touch points to truly flush out culture, because anyone can tell you what you want to hear
Yeah.
for 30 minutes
Yeah.
because they're prepped, they're ready for that interview, they're good to go. And then the next one, we always start with a 15-minute pre-screen, then like a 1 hour video call, then we do an hour with our client, and I'm involved in all of them, so I can see if there's continuity throughout all the interviews. Sometimes people show up and with the owner, and they're completely different than they have been with me, and it's always a red flag, So
Yep.
you can't just meet them one time and say they're a great fit. You need to build a process. Doesn't mean it needs to be a month long and 100 touch points, but you should have at least 2 or 3 different touch points throughout there where you're checking in with people to make sure they are who they say they are in terms of how they show up.
That's when we don't do this just based upon the remote nature of how we're recruiting, where we're recruiting, things like this. But this is one thing that we highly recommend to all of our clients, is to find a way to get the candidate outside of their element. And that could be like an in-person interview in which, like, when they show up, it's like, hey, let's go for a walk, and you get them on their feet, you get them
That's a
out.
great idea. Yeah.
You can take them to a restaurant. You could get families involved or plus ones involved. Like, there's a lot of ways to go, and we've got the whole list of recommendations for it. But getting someone out of their element and getting them to drop their guard and see them who they actually, because everything you see on Zoom and everywhere else is like, it's what they want you to see. The minute you can get them out of that zone and maybe even a little bit uncomfortable is where you'll see kind of who they really are. And then that's when you can really start assessing, and then, is this the right person for the team?
I love it. I think that's great. Who is the it might even be like a fable, but someone who takes someone for lunch, and if they treat the server poorly, they won't hire them, which
Yeah.
I agree with 100%. Coming from restaurants, like, it's that's a real deal. Or someone who treats a receptionist poorly when they check in, or
Yep.
These are all things that I think they're valuable.
Yeah.
Everyone has a bad day. I get that too. That's why I think you need to have kind of, you got to check in with them multiple times. But I love the fact of someone shows up for what they think is going to be a sit down interview, and you say, hey, it's a beautiful day. Well, let's walk down the street and grab a coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See if they put
amazing.
their shopping cart back. Like, that's a take
my
a
biggest
grocery
pet
shop and
peeve.
see if they take it over to the little bin.
I saw a meme one time. It said, I've never seen something around, I've never seen a successful person who didn't put their shopping cart away, or I've never seen a successful person who didn't put their shopping cart away, something like that. Like,
Yeah.
meaning if you just roll it into an empty spot and don't care, that's probably the way you do business.
It's Costco every Saturday. I don't know what's going on with people out here in SoCal, but there's just shopping carts littered everywhere.
It's everywhere, man. It's everywhere.
Oh,
Okay, well, if we had to tie a bow on this, Ryan, if you had one kind of parting piece of advice, what would it be for a small business owner? They're thinking here, okay, these guys have talked a lot. They gave me a lot of stuff to think about. If they want to get back on track or try something new or start to revamp a hiring process, what advice would you give them?
This sounds so simple, and it's really just on theme with what we've been talking about, which is this idea of culture. Like, some people have things written down, some people post it on their wall so that when everybody comes in, but what culture actually is the actions and behaviors that the organization tolerates. And that could be an amazing thing or it could be low, but it doesn't matter what you have in writing. It doesn't matter what you've put on the walls. It doesn't matter even what you preach. One thing that we do every single Friday, we bring the whole team together. We talk about our core values. We identify someone on the team and we talk about the behavior or action that they took. But all of that is meaningless if on the side, you're tolerating behaviors which aren't, because that's your actual culture, is what you'll tolerate. And so this sounds so fundamental, but it's like, for us, it's before the hiring process even begins. It's really about, does an organization actually understand what their culture is? What are those core behaviors, those core values that drive the success inside of the organization? Do they understand if it's a good culture or a toxic culture? But for me, it's like, really taking the time to make sure that they understand what are those values, because people like you and I, it's hard for people like you and I to be successful in the recruiting efforts if an organization doesn't understand why they exist, or the things that make them tick. So it's very ambiguous advice, but it's really just about internal reflection before ever starting.
I agree with everything you said. And if I had to sum it up, I would say, know what you're looking for before you start looking.
Yep.
Right. And that's one of the biggest mistakes hiring small business owners make, in particular when they hire, is they don't clearly define what they're looking for before they start, and they kind of make it up as they go. And I think you hit the nail on the head when it's like, understand where you are in your journey. And it's perfectly okay to say to a high horsepower candidate that you're really excited and really want on the team, to say, we're not perfect.
Yep.
We got a lot of work to do, and you're going to come in here and we're not as polished as what you might be used to, or we don't have it together like what you might be used to, but we want you to help us get there. That's why you're here. If we had all those tools, I wouldn't need someone like you.
Yep.
But that's why you're here, is to help us on our journey. And I call those people builders. People that get excited about, when you tell them that, you're going to get 3 responses. Not interested. I've done that before. It's exhausting. I want to sit in my office and do my job.
Yeah.
Fine. That's a hell no. You're not going to waste another minute on that individual. And that's great that you were honest with them and they were honest with you, and you amiably say, great meeting you. As Ted Lasso would say, we both got to meet someone cool today. Best of luck, right? Yep. It's not a negative. We don't have to be upset about it. You're going to get the person who's like, oh, hell yeah. I love that. I love building. That's what I'm all about. That's the right answer. The most dangerous answer you'll get is, oh, I think that could be fun. Anyone listening to this, that is a hell no. Because that's someone who hasn't done it, but thinks they can, and they'll get 3 months in. And we all know building and rebuilding and scaling companies is hard work. And after 3 months, you're going to go, oh, I don't like this. I'm quitting. And now we're right into the cycle. We started off talking about that kind of hiring the wrong person and all the opportunity costs that get strung along, right? So in my world anyway, I think so is a hell no in our world. We're looking for the people that are like, yeah, that sounds great.
I love that. And I love what you just said there about like, it's the culture, but is the organization ready to hire? Like, have they done, one thing that I used to do is just like rip other job descriptions. When I was leading Hunt to Killer, I'd be like, oh, we need a marketing manager. Okay. Log on to Indeed, copy and paste the job description from someone else's marketing manager.
Put our name in where their name is.
Yeah. That was our hiring process.
That's amazing. Yeah.
But it's almost like, now you got me thinking about like a lead magnet or something to put together of value, but it's almost like a pre-hiring checklist. It's like at the top, it says, are we ready to hire? And there's a list of like an actual checklist of 10 things that like an organization should do an internal audit, because we talked about earlier, like the cost of this, a cost of a bad hire can be in the millions.
Yeah.
And so not being prepared and not being ready to do it, I think it's a very good tip. So That was great.
Okay,
Thanks.
well, if you're going to do that, let's work on it together. Now we got to do it together because
Totally
now,
down.
as you said, I'm like, oh shit, that's a great idea.
I would love that checklist just to,
Yeah, wouldn't it be? How valuable would that be, right?
I
Like,
love it.
okay, let's do a collab, and we'll have to see what we come up with, man. That'd be
Perfect.
great. Yeah.
Sweet.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you. This has been such. I always said no recruiters, but you're different. So I've really enjoyed the conversation. If people want to reach out to you, learn more about you, get in touch with you, how can we do that?
Yeah, best way, LinkedIn, Ryan, I think it's like / Ryan E. Hogan. If you want to email me, Ryan at talentharbor.com. But just love to talk to people. So like we live and breathe the go-giver. So if anybody just wants to jam on startups, product market fit, anything, that's kind of my jam. So appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Been such a good conversation. Let's keep in touch.
Sounds great. This was fun.
Yeah. Cheers, man. Thank you. All right, there you go. Ryan Hogan, smart guy. That's why we do this podcast, is talk to smart people. I hope you got some value. There was a ton of value out in there. I'm not even hoping you got value. I know you got some takeaways from that conversation. So much good stuff in there, which leads me to my next point. If and when you're getting value out of these podcasts, we produce these podcasts for you, the small business owner. If you could help us out, would you be against just hitting that follow button wherever you are? If you're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, just hit the subscribe button, the follow button. That gets us into the algorithm and helps us get promoted and shown to more listeners. And we want to help as many people as we can. So if you're not against it, I would really appreciate you hitting that button. It would mean a lot. That's the show we got for today. My name is Corey Harlock. I've been your host. And until next time, stop grinding, start growing.